Welcome back to Beer Brackets, everybody. We're so excited because this beer was not available where Alessandro and I were. It wasn't available for anybody for a long while because in front of us here from the Chimay Trappist brewery in Belgium, their 150, the 150, or the Chimay Green, otherwise known as, is a beer that was very elusive. It was quite the elusive beer, my friend. They brewed this back in 2015, I believe, for their 150th anniversary in a very, very, very limited quantity. They brewed 150,000 of them. So it was very hard to get them at the time. I remember reading a couple of years ago that you could only really find them in Belgium or the surroundings for the most part. So you had to be lucky enough to maybe be in a pub close by, not too far in Belgium, to be able to find one. But now they've re-released it as part of their main lineup of beers, and we have a chance to review it, man. How amazing is this?
Isn't that great? It's one of those like that almost feels like it's completing the collection, right? Like it.
Exactly.
I don't know if that was a thing here in North America, but in Italy, you always like as a kid, you had, those sticker albums, and you had to try to collect them and get them to get all like this is the missing piece.
Yeah, like every big sort of franchise had a sticker on for every cartoon or every comic.
Exactly.
Book. Yeah. And what's great about Chimay beers is that they always say the ingredients are very, very simple, my friend. So the good old Father Theodore, the legendary Father Theodore, he isolated and developed this special yeast that all the Chimay beers are made with. So this beer is made with Father Theodore's legendary ancient yeast, as well as water from the wells within the walls of this abbey, where the Chimay monks take their slumber, as well as a special...
in the mists of the monastery.
Getting up the water. Taking their slumber. And it was, as well, they say, a special secret spice that is not revealed. So I am dying to try this beer. I never thought I would get to try it, man. Let's crack these open.
Let's
get started with this review. I love Chimay beers so much. It's a shame the Chimay Red, we actually... That video was, a little, as far as beer bracket videos go, maybe a little bit controversial. We got some comments of people who thought we graded it a little too low. But it's just that those types of doubles, those really, really sweet doubles, as delicious as they are, just aren't really, it turns out, our favorite style of beer necessarily, even though it got a very good rating. Do you get those aromas off of this? Like, it's really floral.
Ooh, I can't wait to try it.
Coming in at a strong 10% ABV. Extra strong blonde ale.
Oh, look at that foam.
Whoa. That is a lot of foam. This is super carbon. You would almost think it's bottle fermented.
Yeah, look at that. I believe it has been fermented in the bottle.
Look at that. Beautiful. Oh, the aromas coming off this are delicious. Aroma cheers, my friend.
Aroma cheers to you, my friend.
What do you think?
Ooh, this is already interesting.
Yeah, this is quite the aroma.
Yeah, I can see like the floral notes descriptor that is used, on the website on the bottle. I find also a little bit of fruity character, a little bit of that banana clove, but very subdued, and very a little bit more banana. Of almost like a tropical like mango character that comes across, and then there's this floral character that's very, very interesting. It's a complex aroma. A lot of different edges. Don't get too much of the spices.
No, not in the aroma at least.
I think I'm going to start with a 2.5 because it's very inviting, and that's just a personal preference. It's a little bit, to say like a little bit too estery. There's a little bit too much going on almost. Yeah. Like I'm a little bit like overwhelmed. So I'm going to stay with a 2.5.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's almost like a not too ripe banana, like almost like a banana that's still half green. Where the aroma has a little bit of almost like acidity to it. I'd say that's a good comparison. Yeah. It's definitely very bready on the aroma as well. So you get that kind of funky fruitiness, some breadiness. Like I said, there's a lot going on. There's like two very separate pungent aromas that kick you. It's really nice. It's really, it smells delicious. I'm really excited to go in and take a sip. I think a 2.5 is very fair for the aroma score. Let's go in for a taste. Let's see.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Chimay 150. I'm so excited to finally taste this beer. Let's go. Ooh. Whoa.
Oh,
You got that too?
that's a roller coaster.
Oh, wow. Oh. Oh, the finish is going to be interesting on this one.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
What is that on the finish? Okay, what do you think about the taste?
There's a lot going on. Like, I feel like almost the initial taste that I get is like those like floral, estery, fruity characteristics.
Yeah.
But then it transitions into this light maltiness and a little bit of bitterness that slowly starts to build up. So it's a very complex, it's a very roller coaster. The initial taste is very upfront, but then it kind of like fades away, and you get this second wave of breadiness that comes like
yeah,
almost like brings in a little bit more of that alcohol presence. So wow, that's interesting. I think I'm gonna stay with the 2.5. I don't think I've had a beer that has this kind of sensations, this kind of feelings like when you drink it. Like, it's very unique.
I'd agree with you. This is a really interesting beer experience. I don't think I can compare this to any other beer that I've ever had. When I was reading about this and reading that it was a strong blonde ale, I was kind of thinking like, okay, it might be a little bit similar to their triple, but this is completely different. This is its own thing. It's almost like it's a bit made with the wild Brett. It almost has some wild beer characteristics that are similar to that. It's a roller coaster ride, that's for sure. I'm like at a loss for words when talking about this beer. It's really hard to describe. Like, the aroma is really straightforward. It's powerful, but really straightforward. On the taste, it's almost like there's like a really strong burnt taste to it. I don't know if you're getting the same thing, like almost like the burnt edge of something, like that kind of smoky burntness that I'm getting on the taste.
Yes.
As well, just with a little bit of maltiness. Are you getting that too?
Yes. For me, it comes more towards the finish. Like, it does start in the taste, but it's almost like it builds up like a little bit into the finish. But yes, I can see.
Oh, for sure.
I would describe it more for me like almost like a leathery character. That's why I think
like a leatheriness too.
You know, that bacony, or there's some smoky elements / leathery.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a great description. Like, I think saying smoky is along the same lines of what I'm thinking of. And then like a little bit of hoppiness in the background, a little bit of maltiness. This is a really interesting beer experience. I'm a little bit torn because I think I'm not really appreciating this as much as I do the other Chimay beers. I think this is unique, and this is probably really appeals to a lot of people out there. If this lines up with what your tastes are subjectively, I think for me, I'm going to go with a 2 on the taste. It's not bad. It's not. I don't not like it, but it's just not. It's not to my taste. I'll put it that way. I'm still struggling with the descriptors on this a little bit. But now we got to move on to the mouthfeel, my friend. Let's do a little bit of a refresher here before we get to the very interesting finish on this. There we go.
Carbonation, man. Like, it's crazy.
It's so carbonated. Oh, cheers, buddy. What do you think?
Cheers. Sorry, Wally's decided to bark for a second.
All good. Hey, Wally. Wally's excited about the beer.
He is. He hears that we're drinking in here. We're not inviting. He doesn't like that.
He heard that we were updating, refreshing the mouthfeel, and he wants some of the foam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He can hear it. The mouthfeel, like, it's very interesting. You can definitely tell like the carbonation level is very high.
Yeah.
It doesn't leave like too much of oily stickiness, but
no.
There's one element that I am, I'd say, it's probably brings it down a notch a little bit for me, and that it's that alcohol presence. Like I feel like that I can tell it's there compared to other beers that we've had, even that are this high in percentage. Usually the alcohol is a little bit hidden. In this one here, it's quite present, and I would put it in the mouthfeel, like as in it's kind of like half taste, half mouthfeel, but
yeah,
it shows strong on the mouthfeel. So I think this kind of like for me brings it down to a 2. The rest of the elements are very well done, but that alcohol presence to me is a little off-putting. What do you think, my friend?
I like that it's really carbonated. I know what you mean about the alcohol presence. It has like this tingliness on your tongue. I was kind of almost associating that with the hops. That's probably the high alcohol. You're right. I think I'm going to go with a 2 as well. I think a 2 is very fitting for the mouthfeel. I really like the high carbonation, but the tingliness that, I don't know, it's a little bit too unsettling. It feels almost like a little bit unbalanced for me in that sense. But now let's get to the finish, man. because the finish on this beer is absolutely fascinating. What do you think?
So it's yeah, I agree. As always, the finish is where all the magic happens. And
Yeah.
speaking of wizards, like that's gotta be
Exactly.
But it's funny you
What
mentioned it
wizardry.
in the taste, that element of leather. For me, it comes and starts building up together with the bitterness more towards the end. It does start in the taste, but it's very almost subdued. But it's in the finish that it really takes like a center scene for me. And I do agree that it has like that character that you find in a lot of beers that have Brett. Now I'm not sure if Chimay uses Brett like in their secondary fermentation. I know I've read that some Trappist monks have like that in the range of yeast that they use. If anybody knows,
stash of Brett.
Let us know.
The sneaky monks.
Yeah, they have like all those secrets. But definitely it brings some more elements to the plate, so which is always appreciated. And I hate to sound one-noted here, but to me, on the finish, again, like the alcohol is even more present. Like it's very strong. Like and maybe for some people that's it's what they're looking for. For me, it brings it a little bit out of balance. So great beer, great elements. Just for me, that alcohol presence is a little bit too much. So I'm gonna stick with the 2 again, because the rest is all like very well done.
I'm really confused by the finish. There's a lot going on that I can't really pinpoint, and it almost doesn't feel like it's purposeful. Like when I first drank the beer, I thought maybe it's like, did I get one that was bad? Did I get one that was a little off? Because like the finish just feels like really scattered. It feels all over the place, and I wonder what they were going for. I wonder what the focus, like the mission statement of this beer was. I'd be really curious to learn more about it. Maybe it's just a matter of not being educated on this particular style or the traditions of this particular recipe and what they were really trying to achieve. It's just not doing it for me. I think there's a lot that's interesting there, but saying it's interesting doesn't necessarily mean that I like it or that I think it's really good. I talked about like those really burnt flavors, like those unnatural accidental burnt flavors, like if you burn something in a pan, that kind of black charcoal burnt kind of thing. I'm getting that on the finish. There's a little bit of hops. There's kind of like that sourness from the like a Brettanomyces, like the Orval, something you got from that funky sourness. There's a little bit of that, a little bit of floral. They kept, like you said, you saw on the website, they kept mentioning floral in the descriptor. And I guess, or maybe that's the secret spice that they talked about too. Maybe that's what that burnt element is, the secret spice, the secret Chimay spice. These monks and all their secrets, man, they always have to have, they're so mysterious. They're so mysterious, which is one of the reasons we appreciate them so much, and how they create these wonderfully mysterious beverages. But I wish I knew a little bit more about that secret spice. I think I'm going to have to go with a 2 on the finish. I'm tempted to even go 1.5 on this, but I think it's not a bad beer by any stretch of the imagination, so I'd feel bad going down to a 1.5. It's just not for me. It's going over, whatever it is, it's going over my head. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I'm just not getting it. But, all right, as an overall beer experience, the Chimay 150, the Chimay 150, what would you rate it, my friend?
Overall, it's always the most difficult because you kind of have to think of all the elements, and there's intangibles sometimes.
All those intangibles.
But this is a first beer experience, so it's always great because you really get the whole feeling, right? Like after having tried like a few sips. Aroma and the taste of the beer are really what is most interesting to me.
Yeah.
The evolution, like you say, seems to be a little different than what I expected,
Yeah,
but
me too.
also like a little bit, let's say, out of what I normally look for. So maybe this is the kind of beer that you might need to have a couple of, like, and try, like, not necessarily in the same session, but try it a couple of times to better, like, appreciate and understand the nuances. But I think as of now, as a first experience, I'm going to stick with the 2 because I think 2 is fitting. It has a lot of interesting elements. I just, like, for me, that alcohol presence is a little bit too overpowering if I had to pinpoint something. And that's kind of like what is bringing it down a notch for me.
I think if this, the monks love working their magic and trying to make really palatable high alcohol beers, which they do very successfully. Like the Chimay Grand Reserve, I think is a fantastic example of that. This one could use with a reduction in alcohol percentage, I would say. If this was reduced down to like an 8, even like an 8.5, I think it would make it a much better beer. I think it doesn't need that extra real punch of alcohol. And I think it brings it up to being this thing where it's like you said, it's an acquired taste. If you have a couple of them, then you grow a palate for it and you grow to appreciate it, I'm sure. But as a one-off beer experience, I think it knocks it off balance a little bit too much for me. I hate to do it because I love Chimay and I love their beers, but I think as a 2 is really fitting. I would love to have gone higher. I was really excited to drink this one, and just it's not living up to a high score there. So calculating our final scores, for me it came out to a 3.5 on 5, which in our rating system is a great beer, which it is. It's a great beer. For Alessandro, a little bit higher, 3.66 on 5, which is also a great beer. This was a really fascinating beer experience, buddy, because like I was reading about this beforehand, and this beer got really, really high scores on Beer Advocate and on Rate Beer. So obviously there are people out there that really appreciate this, and I can tell why. It's a very, very interesting beer, but turned out to just not really be for me. And I think you probably kind of feel the same way based on your final score.
Yeah, it's an interesting beer experience, and it definitely takes a different turn compared to all of the other offerings that we have had a chance to try, I think. And it's worth exploring, trying, and maybe experimenting with a little bit more. But it's a little bit different than anything else, at least I've had. So it's an adventure.
I'm getting the high alcohol beer sweats. This 10% is hitting me. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Let us know down below. Have you had a chance to try the Chimay 150 now that it's being distributed a little bit more and made more available across North America? Let us know what you think down below. And as always, do not forget to close your beer brackets. And don't forget to close your Chimay beer brackets.
Never forget. The wizards will not be kind if you
frown upon that kind of thing. Cheers, everybody. Till next time.